call to order the August 15th, 2023 regular meeting of the ISD 623 Roseville Area School Board. Clerk Anderson.
Director Bogoszewski.
Here.
Director Goggins.
Here.
Director Clark.
Here.
Chair Johnson.
Here.
Treasurer Chu.
Here.
Clerk Anderson is here.
Okay. Do we have any agenda adjustments?
There are no agenda adjustments.
Okay. And that takes us to land accomplishment, right? Yes? Are we, yay, nay? Okay. Roseville Area Schools acknowledges that we reside on traditional, ancestral, contemporary, and unceded territory of the Dakota people. From Bedote, a confluence of the Mississippi and Minnesota rivers, a place the Dakota people poetically claim as the center of earth, directly beneath the center of heaven, to Indian Mounds Park, a sacred place of burial built by ancestors of living people and home to the only known remaining burial grounds within the Minneapolis-St. Paul urban core. Indigenous people have cared for this land through warfare, genocide, relocation, and removal perpetrated by colonizers, the state of Minnesota, and the federal government, injustices that reduced over 150 million Indigenous people to around 300,000. Indigenous people have given their blood, tears, heart, resilience, and love to this land. Enduring boarding schools that were in operation from 1879 through the 1930s, where assimilation through humiliation was the curriculum, and unspeakable atrocities occurred daily to the foster care system, where more kids were removed from Indigenous homes than any other group in Minnesota. Indigenous people have not lost their culture or identity and still reside on this land. Roseville Area Schools is committed to ensuring the culture of our Indigenous relatives, the original and rightful caretakers of this land, is studied, preserved, and celebrated. We are committed to understanding and honoring the sovereignty that has been denied to nearly 600 Indigenous nations, including 11 federally recognized tribes in Minnesota, through the breaking of over 400 treaties, and we are committed to the truth of the history of our Indigenous relatives, the success of our Indigenous students, and to the healing we hope to create through this commitment.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next item is summary of community input received for action items. I've received none. Anybody else? Okay. Then that takes us to our consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda minus retirements.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay.
Are we also specifying that 5E will be pulled out with speakers today?
Remember, oh,
No, that's just for reference.
yeah,
Just a reference, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
questions.
all right, cool, thank you.
I'll second.
Do we pull out retirements, however?
Yeah,
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 minus retirements. I said
minus retirements.
And gifts.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Chair Johnson. I'd like to move with sincere appreciation the following retirements. Jane Aguilar, a math teacher from Roseville Area High School. Ms. Aguilar has worked for the district for 28 years. Shannon Brandt, a paraprofessional at Parkview Center School. Ms. Brandt has worked for the district for 13 years. Vicki Day, building secretary at Fairview Alternative High School. Ms. Day has worked for the district for 10 years. Janet Johnson, language arts teacher at Roseville Area High School. Ms. Johnson has worked for the district for 33 years. And Maureen Scarella, a nutrition services manager at Parkview Center School. Ms. Scarella has worked for the district for 16 years. And if I did my math correct, that is exactly 100 years of total experience, wonderful dedication and time and commitment to Roseville Area Schools. We thank them very much for their service and dedication. And I move their retirements.
That is a wonderful number and a nice reminder that our teachers and staff want to be here for our students. So retirements have been moved.
Second.
Okay. with great appreciation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Yes?
Gifts. It's my pleasure again to thank a bunch of donors and organizations for supporting us. First, a gift of funds from Joe's Sporting Goods for Harambe Elementary School for the last day of school celebration. Also, a number of gifts directed to Roseville Area High School. One, a gift of funds from the Roz Boys Lacrosse Boosters for additional coaching staff, supplies, and HUDL streaming services. The second one from the Roz Girls Hockey Booster Club, also a gift of funds for HUDL streaming services. Also, the Roseville Boys Backcourt Club, a gift of funds for uniforms and HUDL streaming services. The Roz Bullpen Baseball Booster Club, a gift of funds for supplies for the high school. The Roseville Girls Basketball Booster Club, a gift of funds for additional coaching staff and T-shirts. And a gift from Cheryl Shoup of funds for the football program at the high school. Your Cause Blackbaud, on behalf of Karen Doherty, gave a gift of funds to be used at the principal's discretion at the high school. And finally, Your Cause Blackbaud, on behalf of Aaron Mastrian, a gift of funds to be used at the district's discretion to the district in general. So once again, a list of folks who we really appreciate how much you care about our community and our kids and our staff and everything we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. One thing I did neglect to mention for those of you who are looking very closely, you might notice that we're not exactly where we were last time. This is our first meeting at Abetu Techa, and this is where we're going to be holding all of our meetings. So pardon us as we kick the tires of our new digs. So let's see.
One of the wonderful benefits we have of our new digs is we have plenty of space for people who wish to come and talk to us at the meeting or see the proceedings of the meeting, which was not necessarily the case in the district center facility. So thank you for making this space usable for our purposes. Much appreciated.
Yes, lots of space. So, okay, that takes us to reports and non-action items. Okay, up first, Assistant Superintendent Melissa Sonic.
All right, thank you.
Kick
Good
us
evening.
off.
In reviewing policy 506 on harassment and violence, we have some recommended additions for your consideration this evening. The recommendation comes from the LGBTQ+ Equity Council. It's made up of students, families, staff, administrators, and board member representation. In section 2.15, we would like to add the following language. Roseville Area Schools Independent School District number 623 is committed to ensuring an equitable and respectful learning environment for every student, regardless of a student's gender identity. The following definitions are provided to assist in understanding this policy. Students may or may not use these terms to describe themselves. We also recommend the addition of some definitions that have been updated to be more inclusive. Tonight is the first reading, and at this time we'll open it up for discussion and questions that you'd like to discuss.
Go ahead, Alex.
Where do we get the definitions from?
So this work really came out of Student Voice about 1.5 years ago. And it was students expressing some concerns or wanting to be reflected and represented in our curriculum and in our policies. And so then that started the subgroup that started to work on policy in the LGBTQ+ Equity Council. What we did is we took a look at policies from across the country. We got 3 of that we thought were the best. And then we started with those definitions from there. Then we also had to cross-check it with legal to make sure that these definitions aligned with state statute as well.
Would you say another significant resource was the MDE toolkit?
For sure, yep. And then we also, once we got there was just so many layers of back and forth. Once we got the layers, one of the things we talked about was that quote, "Nothing about us without us is for us." And so then we brought it back to students repeatedly. So and back to students, some of our secondary students at multiple sites.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I can appreciate why the students and why we want these terms defined. I think that's very valuable. But one of the things I noticed is there are a few of the terms that are defined in this policy but then not used elsewhere in the policy. So I was hoping we could add something into the policy to explain why those terms are used or include them within the policy.
All right, good feedback. I will take a run at that and bring it back for the second reading.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
But you don't get to leave yet, so.
I know. All right.
Student dress, policy 510.
All right, thank you. Tonight we have the second reading on policy 510, student dress. It is our recommendation in reviewing policy 510, student dress, that we recommend an addition for your consideration. In section 4.0, we would like to add the following language. The school district shall not enforce its dress code policies more strictly against transgender or gender expansive students because of their transgender or gender expansive status. So at this time, we'll open it up for discussion, questions, or board action.
Go ahead.
I move acceptance of the policy as proposed.
Been
Second.
moved? Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Okay, discussion.
Just kind of the typical clarifying questions we have. It's been run through various checkpoints and.
Yep, this also came from our LGBTQ plus equity council.
Okay.
Yep, and then it was cross-checked with legal to make sure it aligns with statute.
Cool, thanks.
As well as recommendations from MDE, if I,
Yep, the MDE toolkit.
and MSBA.
Yep, it all aligns with the toolkit as well.
So I just have a question. How are our teachers and staff being notified or communicated or trained about both the one before and this one too?
Great question.
Yeah.
So we have created a guidance document for
Okay.
staff. Part of what's difficult is these are in multiple policy and
Yeah, yeah,
regulations,
yeah.
right? And so for staff, it's important that they have all that information in one document. So we have a guidance document that will be shared with all of our staff during workshop week, which is coming up in just a couple weeks. And then this Thursday, we are meeting with our principals, instructional leaders, and administrators, and we're doing a train the trainer model. So we've done a slide deck set for them, and then we'll go over the inclusion guidance document, and then they'll bring that back to their buildings. Either, I think they have between workshop week and the end of first try. It doesn't all have to happen workshop week. That's a very busy week in schools, but we want to make sure that we have some alignment across our district and that students, receive the benefits and have the positive experience.
Would it be possible for the board to receive a copy of that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Go ahead.
And similarly, are there generally communications directed to the students when we change a policy like this that affects them directly?
That's a good question. I don't know that we have a large, like a system. One of the things that we've done in the past when there's policy changes for students is like we pushed it out on Schoology and things like that. But I'll bring that back to our principals and instructional leaders and process that a bit more.
Yeah, if you could, because I suspect at least some students would find this something to celebrate.
Yeah.
Would appreciate the fact that the board of the district are.
And actually,
moving
to
this.
that point, I'm wondering families too, right? With something changed like this, just to make sure that it then kind of is a heads up, right? So that people are not surprised if one of this get implemented or, we refer to this. And it's like, wow, we didn't know that this changed. So I just want to make sure that we're in communication with our families.
And some of it's already in practice because
yeah.
of the MDE toolkit,
Sure.
but I want to look at it through that lens and
Yeah.
really look for where there's opportunities for that.
Yep. And I think having the fact that it is in alignment with the state and all that, right? The more transparent we can be, it really speaks to the fact that we're in alignment and is in alignment both with the state and alignment with our own
Yep.
equity vision and strategy and how we treat our students, so.
Yep. Thank you.
Anything else? In that case, it has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say nay. Okay, you have got 510 done. That takes us to long-term facilities maintenance plan. Sherry Thompson.
Good evening. So yes, this is the time of year when we come to you for approval on our long-term facility maintenance plan. The long-term facility maintenance plan was originally built, and it's something that is ongoing, and that we tweak every year. It was developed back when we had our facility evaluation done back in 2017 as part of going out for the bond referendum. It was determined that we did have, like, at that time, $189 or $1 million in deferred maintenance. So in a way to address not only the programming changes and added capacity with our facilities was to do an annual LTFM, as it's referred to by the state, plan. So even though it's a 10-year plan, what you're actually approving for right now, this is really kind of that first step in the levy process for this fall. So you're actually approving the expenses for fiscal year 2025. And again, we bring this back every year. And as you know, as part of our long-term facility maintenance, a lot of the things that we're doing are going throughout the district. For instance, this year we're doing 1/2 of Falcon Heights and replacing the ventilation systems as part of that. And when we upgrade our indoor air quality, we are also replacing ceilings, we're replacing lighting, we're replacing flooring, casework, because all of that needs to be torn apart in order to complete that HVAC work. So we are going from site to site. We completed Brim Hall last summer, learned a little bit from that, so that's why we're doing half of Falcon Heights this summer, the other half next summer. Also next summer, we will be doing EDW, 1/2, and the second half in 2025 in that summer. So, and as the next year comes up, we'll be reevaluating where we are, not only on our indoor air quality, our HVAC systems, but also looking at some of our roofing, and we will bring that to you with a recommendation as how to proceed forward in future years, because we haven't checked in on that for a year or two. So we'll work with Kraus Anderson and bring you that probably sometime late winter, early spring, to talk about what comes after EDW. So we're just looking for approval this evening for the levy for 23, pay 24, which is fiscal year 25.
Okay.
I guess I have two questions.
Yeah.
The first is, if I look at fiscal year '24, I see that we've been able to spend 19 million instead of the typical 12 million. Is that due to ESSER funds?
No, that, excuse me, that's a great question. That was actually due to spending less in fiscal year 22. It was kind of a back adjustment because the LTFM didn't really get started till a little bit later as far as our fiscal year goes.
Okay.
So we would have had a negative adjustment, which allowed us to catch up. So it didn't have a negative impact on our taxpayers.
Great. Then I do have one other question. Could you just summarize where we're at? I mean, you mentioned Brim Hall is done, and we're obviously underway for Falcon Heights and Emmett, and Little Canada is done.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. Little Canada was the first school that we completed, and we did do that during the construction period when we were doing the remodel, and we did complete everything at Little Canada.
And then whatever new portions were built with the bonding dollars are also completed, is that correct?
That's correct. So all of the new additions and remodels for programming across the district are complete. Little Canada is completely, I would say, air conditioned or also dehumidified, as we call it, as we've heard. So that facility is complete. Brim Hall is now complete.
Yep.
And yes, Falcon Heights will be complete at the end of next summer.
Is there a significant portion of the high school that's complete, or is that going to be a huge project as well as we go forward?
That will be a big project, but we actually completed some long-term facility maintenance projects. Well, of course, the new E-wing was done, but then other areas that we were working in, we did add some air conditioning at that time, but we still have a portion that will need to be done.
So how many years do you anticipate before we'll be able to achieve the HVAC improvements that we're striving for across the district?
I would say probably to get through all of them, it's probably gonna be 7 or 8 years. One thing that could impact that is if we have large roofing projects, that could interrupt that cycle. And we visit the roofing, we have someone come out annually, but we will take a deeper look at that. And then, of course, when as we fix roofs, or rather replace roofs, that also complements the expansion of our solar panels.
Right.
So we're gonna balance, we'll take a look at all of that, and again, bring a recommendation to the school board.
Thank you.
Good question. And I probably should know this, so I apologize up front, but, you know, I have an understanding of what LTFM is. And it's been a while since I've gone to the website, though. Do we define LTFM for members of the community and just kind of, you know, help people understand, like a community member? You know, I know the principals at these respective buildings do a great job
Sure.
letting their community know, like what's happening in Falcon Heights or what's happened in Brim Hall. But just, you know, members of the public or community members.
We can certainly look at that. I think we did a better job, during the construction. But we can certainly take a look at that, because yes, as you know, and I try not to use the acronym, but the long-term facility maintenance not only includes deferred maintenance, but that's how we also address our health and safety needs in the schools.
Yep.
Right? A lot of times they go hand in hand. But that's something that, from operations, we can work to, now that all of the regular construction is wrapped up, that we can look to do a better job of sharing, especially as we move forward.
Great, thank you.
I mean, I really agree about that communication. Right?
Mhm.
I really, because this is kind of complicated. And
Yes.
so how do we make this be more visible from a public eye to say all these things are happening?
Right, because without the deferred maintenance, you could be under the assumption that we passed the bond referendum and everything was
Everything's done.
completed and it's done.
Yep,
So that's a good point.
yeah.
We'll work on that.
Excellent. Okay, and just a point of clarification, 7 to 8 years for completion, assuming all goes as planned. That's 7 to 8 years from today.
7 to 8 years, yes, I would say probably, actually from this year, we're
Therefore-
talking 8 to 9 years
Okay.
in order to complete everything. I know I get ahead of myself.
No problem. Okay, go ahead.
I'm ready to move. I move that the board adopt the long-term facilities maintenance capital expenditure plan for fiscal years 2025 to 2033 as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
Okay, next up on the board, Superintendent Lake.
I have a final item. The district administration is recommending that we make a slight adjustment to the October 10th board meeting, which is normally on a Tuesday. We'd like to recommend a movement to that Thursday due to the district's partnership with the Midwest Assistance Plains Center, who is providing partnership in the area of district strategic planning. We have our final second of 2 trainings in Indianapolis on that Tuesday.
Okay.
So moved?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion about the change? Concerns? No?
And I will be providing updates to the board in regards to the partnership as well as we move forward.
Excellent. With that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay.
Fast
Oh, go ahead.
For that, is there a way that maybe we can get that schedule of all our meetings again and have it changed on there? I just want to make sure. I'll look out.
Good idea.
And on the website, of course.
Yes.
Okay, that takes us to board reports. I know it's been a long time. So,
Report on your summer.
Mike,
I do have something. So,
I know you do.
Equity Alliance Minnesota. So the MMKR financial firm completed the audit of the financials. They're in the process of finishing the final report that will be delivered back to Kathy Miller and myself as fiscal and business agents of the organization, which did legally cease to exist at the end of June 30th. It looks like there will be funds to disperse to each of the 5 districts, somewhere around $80,000 or $85,000 per district. If everything goes well, which we expect it to at this point, that'll probably happen sometime in November. Once we have the final reports back, we're able to close everything out from a banking perspective and account perspective, et cetera, et cetera. So right now there's about $435,000 in the account. It includes the refund we got from the legal firm. We'd had some funds in escrow there just in case we had to deal with actions that might come up, and it looks like that's not going to happen now, so we'll get that refunded to us.
Great.
So once the final number is known, I'll let everybody know, and then we'll look for that in November. I'm sharing this with you guys. I haven't yet sent any communication out to the other 5 districts. I don't know that I need to. I think that, you know, as things go on, I'll just let them know at some point through a note. But if you, certainly, Dr. Lake, if you're on your superintendent call with any of the other 4 that are with us, you feel free to share that information with them, that it looks like it'll be around $80,000 or $85,000 per district at some point in November.
That's good news, thank you.
That's it.
Awesome. All right. Clerk Anderson.
All right.
Last week, I'm looking at my calendar.
2 quick things. Little Canada Parade. I enjoyed very much walking with Little Canada Elementary. I believe we were all there. That's fantastic. I love the Little Canada Parade, and especially that we just got it in before the rain hit. That was something else, but I had a lot of fun. It was great to interact with the community, and it was great to have everybody there. So thoroughly enjoyed that. And then the Community Education Extravaganza. That was awesome. Great turnout. I enjoyed working the school board table with fellow colleagues, Director Goggins, Director Clark. I know you stopped by, you know, to speak to the community members. Many folks stopped by our school board table. It was just great to interact with everybody. And I want to say thanks Cindy and her staff, and just it was wonderful. I think more and more people attend every single year. So it was a wonderful event I think that we have for the community and to show off this building. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. That's it.
Okay. Kitty.
Okay, well, I just want to add to the update on the community extravaganza is we worked with Do Good Minnesota partnered with the community, and they actually had an amazing volunteer fair with so many booths, and it's just wonderful to see that community partnership in different ways and venues. And also appreciated that if the kids came by and said hi to school board members, they could get a stamp. So we got to see lots of kiddos, which was a treat. Attended the MSBA Summer Conference along with Mike and Curtis and Dr. Lake. It was really about reading, a lot about the Reading Act and just in general the science of reading and the new learning that is becoming widespread. And we were fortunate on the panel of participants talking about implementation that Melissa Sonic represented our district and did an amazing job. I know you all folks, you got to hear in June about the work that the district is doing. And it is very much considered leading edge in Minnesota. Dr. Katie Backel, who was the facilitator of the panel and leads Carey in the University of Minnesota, specifically mentioned Roseville as a district to look to for the future implementation, since we're 4 years underway on this process. But it was really, she did an incredible job, and it was a lot of pride to be there to hear about that or get it recognized as much. Got to attend a half-day session of the cognitive guided instruction of math. There was a 4-day session that was offered for staff, a training session, and one of the co-presenters invited me along, and it was really exciting to hear. To me, it's kind of the next, it's sort of the, when you think about, one of the things that came up at MSBA conference was, well, where's the Math Act? And it was like, ooh, this has got some potential to be something like that. It's really around how do you leverage what the kids know as you're teaching math to really engage them, and engage them in a way that is extremely much building on their strengths. And it was just really wonderful to see the excitement in the room and the number of staff we have that are working on this, despite the fact that they're also having to work on the literacy pieces, because it's the same group of staff that are affected, both the elementary staff. So that was really, really powerful to see, and the dedication and commitment of our staff is always impressive and be fun to be part of.
Okay. Rose?
Sure. I was in some of the things I mentioned, so I will mention that. But I will call out this is the Melissa and DeLon day here. I was at the LEAD conference, which is a conference put on by University of Minnesota. And I can't remember what LEAD stands for now. Something to do with equity. It's an equity conference.
Leadership for Equity.
Thank you.
University.
Thank you. And this is actually my second year going there. And the first year I actually presented, this year I didn't present. And I actually was able to go to a session that was about math and talking about a framework. And I was going to maybe talk to Jake about that. And it is by Dr. And she's a colleague of mine. I'm going to blank on her name right now. She really talked about how the different frameworks in equity and how she's drawing on them to create a framework in Minnesota. And she's actually looking for districts to participate, to really look at that. So I don't know whether, maybe Roseville is interested. I know there's a lot of other things going on, but I'll definitely pass that on. So it's something to remember. But the one that I went to, and I know Dr. Lick was there too, was a session on recruiting and supporting principals and instructional leaders. And DeLon Smith and Melissa Sonic were there, and they did such a wonderful job. And we had people who just thought that it was the best session. I mean, there were many people who said that. It was the best session. It was very practical. It was very on the ground. This is what we do. This is, we are unapologetic about the equity lens that we use. So it was just wonderful. So thank you for showcasing Roseville at such a very important conference that had, 400 people there overall from across the state, mostly at district folks. So thank you for doing that. Yeah.
Okay, next.
I'll share a few 916 updates. I participated in a scanning activity with their strategic actions. Reminded me a lot of what we did over the past year as well. They also have Valerie Doslin, their lobbyist, for the intermediates, to talk about how this legislative session, how it affects the intermediates. Let's see. We approved an increase of $10 a day that the teachers, for substitute teachers, to get to $185 a day, as we continue to try to make sure that there's teachers for them to support our students. And the last thing I will highlight is, and I don't know if anybody else got a chance to attend the Student Built Home that the students in 916 do. And 3 of our Roseville students, I think there's 11 students maybe in the class, but 3 of them are, or 22 students, but they're like split in groups of 11. And 3 of them are Roseville students that did that. So it was a very nice in North St. Paul to do that. They did, it's not on the market yet, but the one that they sold last year was sold for like $440,000. So it's a great thing for our students to get that hands-on experience. So I've got to do it 2 years now. I think it's impressive. The houses look good, so it's a good time.
That's excellent. I'm just going to piggyback on that because that was one of my favorite things. Yeah. It's really impressive about literally the kids build the house, but they also, a separate group of kids do the interior design, and it's just wonderful. And you know, I was just going through and going, saying, so if we could just move this a little into district, then we could. But just like Mannix, I've had the pleasure of attending it for the last 2 years. So, yeah, been a while. So let's go MSD. So was able to attend our last MSD. Yeah, no, our last MSD meeting with Rose and Kitty, and of course Superintendent Lake, who graciously has signed on again to be the MSD's official treasurer. So I do think we just need to call that the Roseville seat. But always great to get the band back together. Let's see, trying to do things that we have not been discussed. Was able to attend the Rice Street Gardens summer celebration, which is in their first year celebration of community farming. Really, thought that was fun. Was able to participate into 2 different groups. One called Product Scientists, okay, and that actually has some of our students involved, mostly in St. Paul, but we do have a couple of Roseville folks in there. Product Scientists is a national program to get young girls interested in STEM careers. So it's was very cool. This is my second year doing that. Then was able to spend some time also in St. Paul at STEM Freedom School. And again, some of our kids are over there, so I was like, okay, let me go down and see what's going on. Again, a really cool national program out of Tennessee to help kids become interested in STEM. So in this case, it's kids from traditionally underrepresented communities. So that was fun. Last but certainly not least, I had the opportunity to join a panel with Columbia Heights Mayor Amada Simula and Minnesota House Representative Sandra Feist. And at Convergence, we had a panel discussion called Geeks in Government, and so how could I say no to that? So really, really cool opportunity to talk about how each of our fandoms impact how we legislate. So everyone, I can honestly say I've seen everyone everywhere this summer. We've all been very busy. Even those are supposed to be our time off. It seems to be we do more work when we don't have to show up for meetings. So, very cool. So, that ends my report, and that takes us to Dr. Lee's report.
Great. Thank you. I think I've heard my team say the same thing to me. I have a couple of duplicates, but I think they're important, so I'm going to go ahead and read my full report. I feel energized as a leader as I know our staff are prepared and ready to welcome back learners of all ages back to Roseville area schools this fall. All district and building administrators, along with teacher and staff leaders, over 200 staff members from all schools enjoyed 2 days of significant learning with one another, led by Assistant Superintendent Sonic and leaders from our Office of Educational Equity. The teams worked to define site improvement plans within the new district strategic plan mission statement of excellence, innovation, and equity in all we do. Second, if you are a community member, as mentioned, watching on the screen, you may notice we are now hosting all future board meetings at Umbetu Techa Education Center. Rationale for the shift from the district center was driven with the desire to host community in a larger, updated community space. We're able to host more students, staff, and community members, as well as the new building now has updated technology in our system. Also, Roseville Area Schools has recently announced our 2023 Athletic Hall of Fame class. We'll be hosting a Hall of Fame induction ceremony followed by a football game on Friday, September 8th. The ceremony will start at 5 p.m. in the Roseville Area High School Commons. That will last roughly 1 hour, followed by an induction ceremony at halftime of the football game. Congratulations to the following members of this year's class. They are Monica Bridge, Mark Curley, Rhonda Curtin, Amy Doherty, Mike Flatten, Anna McClune, Mike Muscala, Steve Alseth, and Mark Van Gilder. Also, as been said, I'd like to personally thank Cindy Arneson and our community education team for the wonderful event last Monday, our community extravaganza. And I know Cindy would like me to highlight, and I would as well, the leadership of Molly Flynn in terms of developing that excellent, inclusive and welcoming community engagement event. And finally, I want to reassure the community that Roseville Area Schools continues to be committed to our clean energy efforts throughout the school district. We will make collaborative decisions that continue to be good for our community, the climate, as well as the balancing of the importance of being good stewards of taxpayer dollars in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I am out of things to talk about, so we will stand adjourned.